What is up, dudes? Lady dudes, welcome back to Just Nuts here, guys. Today, I'm finally back. First off, I was on a week-long vacation, doing just some cool stuff in New York. But I'm finally back. I know it's been a minute. I mean, we didn't really have crazy news except for like Fire Fist and the gadget stuff being released. Other than that, we didn't really get like any news during the week, and then we got this on the last day. I just got home yesterday. I know I'm a day late here, but I have to talk about this. Everybody has to talk about this. It's so huge. We got the 3 promos revealed for the Gold Sarcophagus Tins. Konami promised that these would be game-changing cards. I think they are game-changing cards. I don't know about how, like, you know, there can be a whole debate on how much these will change the game, but I do think these do. Will cause a shift in the game for sure, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. We'll start with the first one here. I'm going to go in the order I want to go in. So we'll start with Dark Ruler No More. It's a normal spell card, and it reads like this. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls, until the end of this turn. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent takes 0 damage, and neither player can activate monster effects in response to this card's activation. So very clearly, this is a board-breaking card. It doesn't do anything going first, but going second, it can be very, very strong. Maybe this would be. I think almost all 3 of these become like side deck options for the most part, and you'll see why. They're a little selective on when you can use them, but they are insanely powerful when you do. What this does is pretty much is a counterbalance towards the break my board types of decks that we've been seeing for the last, 2 years. I mean, right now we're looking at Thunder Dragon and Pendulum being the 2 main, types of those, where Pendulum, they're putting up 3-4 negates / interruptions at minimum. And then they just say, I'm taking 1 interruption per card, and then you're left with 1 card in hand or whatever, and then you can't beat me with 1 card. You can't beat 4 beat sticks on the board with 1 card, and then you lose. And this just says, nope, turn off your board, and then if I can just put any kind of removal, any kind of mass removal up, you just lose. Because you put all your resources in, and I'm just playing this down, you do nothing, and then I just wipe your board, and then it's over. Right. Keep in mind this is still being negated by like Solemn Judgment and I guess Imperial Order and stuff, but those are not in super abundance right now. I guess the more roguish like control decks play those, but outside of those you don't really see that. So this card really doesn't have a counterbalance, and I know that there's also an argument for that. The build your board decks can still use this. I mean, when they go second against other build your board decks, you play it into their board, they're turned off, and then you just bing, 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 and then you win, right? So there's an interesting dynamic there, but I do think it's a good card. I don't think anybody can argue that it's a good card, and we'll see how much this one becomes impactful. I think it might be the lowest one right now, the one I'm the lowest on, but I'm still actually fairly high on. I still think it's a good card, even for like a control deck that like the decks that I play, is because. Like, when they do that, like, you just lose. Like, if they have 4 or 5 negates, like, you don't play through that. But you just turn them off, and then you get to set up your control situation, and you try to whittle them down and grind to your match. It's possible, right? Anyway, when we go up to the next card, this is a hand trap called Dimension Shifter. I love his design. He looks dope as hell. He's a level 6 monster, dark spellcaster effect with 1200 attack, 2200 defense, so pretty weak attack-wise, but decent defense. And it reads like this. If you have no cards in your graveyard, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and then until the end of the next turn, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So you're setting up a 2-turn Dark Law via a hand trap, which is pretty interesting. Again, this is a card with a very, very niche timeline and when it's useful. You have to have no cards in your graveyard, which pretty much means you have to be going second, and you have to use this as the first hand trap you use. We've seen though, alright, so here's the tough part. I think right now it's not the best. Pendulums don't go through the graveyard at all. I guess you stop Darkworm from being a possible play for your opponent, but that's like best case scenario. You just trade like a 1-for-1 or with Darkworm. But other than that, like Thunder Dragon can still take advantage of this a little bit because they do have their Thunder monsters that get you effects when they're banished. But also, I would argue that like Thunder Dragon builds are playing more Guard Dragon-y stuff, and this is better against the Guard Dragon-y stuff, not as much against Thunder. But people are playing smaller Thunder packages, so I think it's fine. I think it's definitely a good card. We will definitely see this be good. People argue that Salamangreats and Strikers are still good cards, are still good decks. This is great going second against both of those decks. This makes it so Striker cannot get 3 spells in the grave turn 1. And it just makes them not want to do stuff, because if they're using their resource in their hand and then it's getting banished, then they may not even be able to reach 3 spells in grave by next turn. So it may make them kind of just almost like Maxi, just be like, okay, I'm just not going to do anything for the rest of the turn because I need these resources for the next turn, and I might just lose too much by playing them this turn. Really nice. And then like Sallies are still playable, we've seen, and definitely not tier 1, I would argue, but that's another deck that severely gets destroyed by this card just because of like they either forces them to do nothing for a turn, or if they try to combo through, they're just going to lose important combo pieces that they could have used in turns to come, like Spinny and stuff. So Dimension Shifter, pretty powerful. He'll definitely come up, but again, he's only really good going second, because once you put a card in the graveyard, over. It's just over. Like, you don't do anything with him for the rest of the duel. So I see him as more of a side deck card. I see both of these as more of side deck cards, unless like maybe a going second OTK deck could definitely abuse this, but outside of that, I don't know. Or I guess decks that just generally choose second could use these. But the last one here, we have Nibiru, the Primal Being. This is by far and away, I feel like, the best one, the most busted one, and you'll see why in a second. It has 11 stars, huge, light rock type effect monster, 3,000 attack, 600 defense, and his effects read like this. During the main phase, if your opponent normal or special summoned 5 or more monsters this turn, so once they summon that 5th monster in any way, shape, or form, normal or special, he's turned on essentially. And then he has a quick effect. This is a quick effect. You contribute as many face-up monsters on the field as possible. On the field, yours or your opponent's every single monster. And if you do, special summon this card from your hand, then special summon 1 Primal Being token, a Rock Light level 11, question mark, stats to your opponent's field, and this token's attack and defense become the combined original attack and defense of the tributed monsters. And you can only use this effect once per turn. Going second this card's nuts, especially against combo decks. You could literally let them get to the very end of their combo. This is unnegatable, and you literally just tribute all 5 monsters they summoned. Give them a big token, but you get this guy, and then you're just thinking that the token is a special summon monster in the normal monster zone, and then you could just make a Cerberus and pop it. Like there's a link to. Like you probably just win. I mean, if they put that many, once they put that many resources in, they probably just lose from there, like straight up. So, this card is insane. This card is a card that everybody's been talking about. Like, this is going to be a card that will be in the minds of anybody who wants to play a combo-ish deck in any way, shape, or form, any kind of combo deck. Because if you combo turn 1, they just wait for the end of your combo as you try to leave the main phase. They just wipe your board and give you a big token, and you're just like, well, I have 2 cards in hand. They have 5 playing into me with a monster on board. They're going to out my token fairly easily, and then I'm screwed. I would definitely say be careful of how you play this, because if you have to do this not going second turn 1, and you give your opponent a token that has like 12,000 attack, and they haven't gone to their battle phase yet, you summon this in defense mode, obviously to protect your life points. All I have to do is summon 1 monster with all I have to need to be able to do is extend it to 1 monster with 600 more attack. They can just attack over this and then beat you through for 12,000. Be careful of that, but for the most part, this card is absolutely busted, insanely busted. It's so good. I mean, seriously, and the craziest part is that when you think about decks that summon 5 times per turn, there are decks that, like, you don't realize do that, and they're still, like, control-y decks. I mean, I'm talking about stuff like Striker. I mean, seriously, you talk about like normal summon Ray, link Ray off. If your opponent has a disruption to like destroy something, like Ray comes back. And then you go like through Kagari, Hayate, Shizuku in one turn, and then like you're possibly looking at 5 summons. And while that may not be super consistent, that's a deck that you consider like you only keep 1 monster on the board at a time. Like you would never meet the requirements, but it's actually possible for that deck to meet the requirements for this, and it's just like wild to think about that. It's wild to think that that could be a thing. So overall, this card is insane. This one I think will have the most impact. It's like just a power creep for kaijus, an insane power creep for kaijus. I don't know. Like, this card will change a lot. I'm curious if they will decide that this card needs to be banned, or if they like what this card does when it comes out. They like how it has a similar effect to Maxi, in that it makes your opponent not want to special summon more than 5 times in turn just to turn it on. Like, it may make your opponent weary to just make sure they special summon 4 times. And then their boards are super weak. And then you break their board super easily, just to make you have 1 dead card in your hand. We'll see. We'll see where it leads us. But for now, I think all 3 of these cards are good. I think they're all hits. I think they'll all affect the game. I think they'll all be there. They'll all be used in the meta at some point. Some more than others, and some in more prominent roles, not just like side deck cards going second. But hey, we'll see, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know what you guys think about these 3 cards. If you think any of them are worse than I think, if you think any of them are better than I think, just let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more stuff from me in the future, subscribe to the channel. And as always, keep it tight. Keep it tight.